Welcome, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me always, looking pretty in pink. How are you, Andy?
Real good. And before we get too deep into basketball here, I do want to I put a different kind of blog out this morning. We often will, right now, the win bet, like the $500 free bet is the big part we push. Obviously, the sweatshirt, everybody loves the sweatshirt, but we talk about the free bet. It's 500 in New Jersey and Colorado, 1,000 in Michigan. I've had people ask for advice on how to use it. I actually put a blog out on the BetSperts app this morning, kind of detailing how I would go about using a risk-free bet, because there's a little bit of strategy to it. And so you can look for that. You can use that anytime you sign up. Anyone who signs up, makes a deposit, can get their $500 free bet. So you can look for that. And in Colorado or Michigan, $1,000 free bet, risk-free bet right off the bat. So, and as promised, we said college basketball. So we're going to bring in special guest Rob Dauster joining us.
There might not be any college basketball on tonight. We've got
it. It's play-in day. It's NIT day. We got 6 damn games, which feels like a feast compared to, like, it just didn't feel good on these first couple of days of the week when you're used to 5 straight months of just at least 10 games a day, if not 150 on a weekend. So it felt really dry. How are we doing today, Rob?
I am fired up. We get NCAA tournament basketball tonight. There's nothing more that you can ask for. NCAA, I know it's playing games. It counts though, right? Win or go home. I'm in. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. We've waited 2 years for this day. 2 years. Back, baby. Let's go.
That does make it a little different too. The fact that we got shut out last year, and I bet on a play-in game today. I can't hate on the first bet I ever placed in Las Vegas was a play-in game, and it was basically because that's when we landed. Like, well, shit, we got to get some bets down. I think it was like Tennessee, Iowa, many moons ago. This was probably 6-7 years back, and one of these 11 seed play-in games. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like, they're play-in games. You got Michigan State, UCLA. That's some pretty decent names as far as they might not be as good this year, but Michigan State has beaten some top teams. They're kind of everyone wants to talk about some of these lower seeds and, can get some upsets here, but Michigan State has some kind of convincing wins and some weird spots. I mean, it was like a sandwich spot for Illinois or Iowa. I can't remember who was it that lost to them most recently, but I mean, are you ready, Rob? Do you have your shit in the get? Are you ready to go?
I've already got bets in on I think 11 games for the for Friday and Saturday, and I love Michigan State tonight. I don't understand why that line's only 2. I feel very comfortable fading, taking every Big Ten team when they play against a mid-major like the Pac-12. So I love Michigan State here tonight. I don't understand how that line's only 2. Is it just because it feels like we'd never know what we're getting out of Michigan State? I would take that line up to like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And you still, like, I make the same joke. Our golf guy that we have sometimes on he went to Washington. I make that same joke about their football programs. Like, it's not a Power 5 because, and I mean, UCLA has been a weird team. We talked about that yesterday on the podcast with Drew. Somebody had beaten UCLA early in the season in non-conference, and we're like, that wasn't really a good win though. Like, UCLA, as lowly as we think about them right now compared to where the program's been in the past, they were a mess at the beginning of the year. Like, they've actually come a long way since the beginning of the year, and it's still not a spot I'd look to back them. So glad to see you have some similar thinking to me on that game. Did you bet any of the other play-in games tonight, or is it all action starting tomorrow?
I got Michigan State. I just, like I said, I don't understand how that line's only 2. UCLA is – I feel like they've been really kind of inflated. I thought it was correct to put them in a playing game. I did not think that their resume was all that strong. I thought that the whole time, like, we saw them, if you looked at Bracket Matrix or any of these projections, they were kind of in like that 8-9 range, and that just never made any sense to me. Chris Smith isn't there. And I think that Aaron Henry, when Michigan State goes with this lineup where they basically play 4 out and 1 in, with Gabe Brown at the 4, Josh Langford, Aaron Henry, and Rocket Watts, like that lineup is really, really good when they're locked in and they decide they want to play. So I'm I'll take Aaron Henry all day. I think he's going to be the best player on the floor. And the one thing about UCLA is, like, when you think about Mick Cronin, you think about teams that can really, really guard you, and that's not this UCLA team at all. And I just, I think Michigan State's tougher. I think they're better. I think it's Tom Izzo in March. You never bet against Tom Izzo in March. You just can't do it. So, yeah, I'm all in on Sparty tonight.
I like that a lot.
We do have and I don't know if you looked at this at all, Alex. We do have 3 other games. Did you have any? I mean, 2 of them are just shit games. Although I did bet on one of them, but I mean, did you have any takes on Drake?
Bet on Texas Southern Mount St. Mary's. Like, it's a law. The first game of the NCAA tournament, right? I took Mount St. Mary's. I took them out.
Yeah, I had no idea what. I haven't bet that game yet. I'm probably gonna find an angle on a total because I cannot make sense of that game. That I have those teams really closely power ranked. They both beat. Like, I wrote this in an article. I'm ready to get out here pretty soon. It's like Texas Southern probably beat the 2 best teams in the SWAC. Mount St. Mary's probably beat the 2 best teams in the NEC. Neither of those things are anything to write home about. Like, these are just 2 teams that. They made it through smaller conference tournaments, and I can't differentiate them a lot. I'd probably flip a coin on this one.
Yeah. So here's my angle on it. Is that Johnny Jones? I don't trust him. Right. Like, he's one of these guys that can amass talent. I don't trust him to be able to win with the talent that he puts on his roster. Like, if this was just on paper, look at who Texas Southern has. They got a kid from Oklahoma State. They got a kid from, I think it was Temple. Like, they have a whole bunch of high major transfers on that roster. But Mount St. Mary's is they're not built like a typical mid-major. They go like 6'8", 6'8", 6'9". They got some big physical athletes up front. All they want to do is guard and defend and rebound. And I think when you're taking a team that is going to be well coached, that is going to be tough and physical, that's going to try to grind you down and defend, and has the size and the athletes to match up with someone like the Texas Southern, I'm going to take the team that wants to guard. And that line's moving away from us too. I think Mount St. Mary's is getting a point now. So I'll be on them. I think that they're going to win.
It's hard to back a SWAC team ever. The only time you can bet on a SWAC team is when they're playing another SWAC team. It's a really hard conference to get behind. So
you know what else is really hard to do? It's really hard to back anybody from the NEC as well. So, which is why you kind of got to roll the dice on this one. It's very
stoppable force.
This doesn't feel like betting. This feels like gambling.
Yeah, that's kind of what this one is. And I mean, you're right. I'll probably take a few punts on some of these early games that I don't have action on, just because it feels like we haven't bet on. I put some small action on some NIT games, but it's just not the same. It's just not. It feels like that's a game that they shouldn't even really be playing. So, before we get into tomorrow's action, did you have any thoughts on Drake Wichita? They're getting him back. Everybody's piling on Drake right now. Like, the whole world.
And look, I understand the logic, because I think that Wichita State and everybody from the AAC is very, very bad. I think Wichita State is 10-1 in one possession games this year. They won like their 2 overtime games, so it's not like they're blowing anybody out. And Drake obviously gets Tank Hemphill back. Now, the difficult thing with bringing a star player back like that is you kind of have to readjust what everybody else's expectations and rotations and roles are going to end up being. So I think that it's in a vacuum, I really would like Drake in this spot, but it's also, you're getting this new guy back. It's going to be new. It's going to be different. Normally it takes a couple games to kind of work all that stuff through. So I'm staying away from it. I don't have a good feel from this at all. And when I say I'm staying away from it, it means I'm probably just going to end up throwing a bet on like Drake 5 minutes before the game tips off, because I'm going to be like, it's the NCAA tournament. I got to get something in here. So I don't feel great about anything in it though.
Yeah, somebody made a point of this in a chat I'm in, as far as he's like, I kind of hope it ends up Drake just ends up getting up big, and I take some Wichita State second half, because I have these these are teams I have pretty close together. I don't rate Drake all that well. I mean, they did, after the 2 injuries, they actually gelled better than a lot of people thought they would, with having to make some lineup changes, but it's still, I think 25-4 is a little bit deceptive as far as the record. The records have throw me for a loop. We talked about this the other day. It's like, looking at all and it was in conference tournaments too. You're looking at all these teams. Like, one conference had 4 teams with the same amount of wins, but they all had different amount of losses in the, it just, everything got so goofy. And you look at like Colgate, What they have like 14 games or something stupid like that. It's
They play
really hard to
15 games and
evaluate
only
teams
play
like
five
this.
teams. That's it. They play just 5 teams. That's it. You want to talk about Colgate? I think Arkansas is probably my favorite bet of the first round. I do not see how Colgate stays with them. I feel like they've been inflated and their numbers are inflated because of the conference that they play in and the fact that we didn't get as much kind of intra-conference play, so to speak. And look, Colgate wants to run, right? They want to play fast. They want to chuck up a bunch of threes, and that plays right into the Must-Bus's hands. And the way that I've always kind of approached the mid-majors and the low majors in some of these games is you want the teams that slow the pace and that shoot a ton of threes to kind of try to create as much variance as possible when you're trying to pick an upset. And this game's going to be like 75 or 80 possessions. There's going to be a ton of points, and it just takes away all of the variance. And over more possessions, you're just more likely to see the better team end up winning. And playing at that pace and that tempo right into the hands of what Arkansas wants to do. I don't understand how that line's only 8.5. So I've been all over Arkansas.
That is a team I have a Final Four bet on them. I just found it kind of a rogue number on them earlier, and it's like, and they're a team I liked. I bet them to win the SEC for a little bit. That was kind of disappointing. Actually, all the major conference tournaments, I think I might have got shut out in those, except for I had some Illinois, which not like that was a big price either. So, yeah, there's a few of these. I talked about this with somebody yesterday. And I mean, we've talked about this earlier in the week too, Alex. Like, there's always these trendy teams that everybody piles on. Like I just talked about Drake. You know, people are excited about Colgate because their efficiency's up. And honestly, like if Colgate covers this 8.5, they'd probably win. If you really want to bet Colgate, I don't know if I'd take the points. Like it turns out like they were really good. We didn't see it because they only played a few teams and they can hang. Like either they lose by 30 or they win this game. Like, I don't know if I would lay the points if you really, really want to bet Colgate, but I tend to agree with you there on Arkansas. Anything else that popped yet for tomorrow or Saturday that, I mean, maybe something where these lines have moved quite a bit. Anything that you bet that's maybe somewhere still near where you bet it at?
Well, Ohio was the obvious one. I mean, if you didn't jump on that Ohio opening line, what was it, 10.5 when it opened? If you didn't jump on that, then you weren't paying attention. I mean, Virginia still has not practiced yet. I think that today they finally get out of quarantine. They don't get to Indy until tomorrow. They play on Saturday. Like and Ohio, I don't know how much you guys have seen of Ohio, but they got a kid named Jason Preston who's going to be an NBA draft pick. They play 2 guards. They play this ball screen heavy system. They have a 5-man that like loves to pick and pop. And Vanderplas. The kid, he's got like a ponytail and everything. Like you'll love this guy. And the way to beat Virginia's pack line defense is to be able to make threes over the top of it. So I'm very much into the idea that Ohio not only can cover but can win. The other line that I really like is Villanova laying 6 against Winthrop. Winthrop is kind of like Colgate to me in the sense that they didn't really play anybody. Their best opponent this year was UNC Greensboro. They also beat Furman. And like those teams are good, but they're also very much mid-majors. And you're now going up against a Villanova team that still has pros on their roster. I know that they don't have Colin Gillespie, but Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is going to play in the NBA. He's going to be the best player on the floor. The way Winthrop's offense is built is around this guy named Chandler Vaudrin, who's this like 6'7" point guard that can really pass. He's a lot of fun to watch, but Villanova's got 2 guys in Brandon Slater and Jermaine Samuels who are only on that roster because of their length and their athleticism and their ability to defend. Like they're the guys that allow Villanova to play positionless basketball because they can guard anybody. And you're telling me Chandler Vaudrin, a D2 transfer, is going to deal with those guys? Well, I don't think that he will. And then you combine it all with the fact that the reason why we're kind of down on Villanova right now is, one, they lost to Providence when in the game after Gillespie went down, when Justin Moore, who was supposed to be taking over point guard duties, went down with a sprained ankle in the first 10 minutes of that game. So that threw off everything that they were trying to do in that game. And then they lost in the first round of the Big East tournament to Georgetown, who turned around and won the tournament. You know, like 4 days after Georgetown beat Villanova, they beat Creighton by 25. So it's not like the Georgetown just look, I didn't expect it, but they found something in Madison Square Garden that week. So I can overlook that a little bit as well. So I don't get why that line is only 6. It seems way too low. I think Villanova wins that game by 15. One thing that I have noticed looking at these lines is, and tell me if you guys disagree, it feels like a lot of these like high majors against some of the low majors, the lines are just way too low. Like Texas against Abilene Christian, how is that only a single digit line? It feels like that should be like 12 or 13. So we'll see. Maybe I'm just completely off on some of the ways that I'm valuing these teams, but it seems like there's a lot of value with some of those like 2 and 3 seeds that aren't getting enough points.
But you guys touched on it earlier, right? There's been so little non-conference play that more than ever, there's less information. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword. When there's less information, there's probably more value, but you don't really know kind of what to do in those situations. So I wonder if folks are trying to be a little more conservative.
Situation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, people pick up on these little nuggets, and I maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think Abilene Christian is the team that they have an obscene amount of forced turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Like their defenses, they're always getting in lanes, but it's like you do got to put some context to it. And I mean, it's weighted for certain things when you look at turnover percent, but still, like you didn't play in the Big 12. You didn't, the level of competition is so much lower. You start looking, these teams are playing great, and the teams that actually can, beat a higher seeded team, they have certain things that go their way, or they hit their threes that day, or they have, like you talk about Preston at Ohio. Like, I love that team. That was the only conference tournament that I actually like made some decent money on. They were like 10-1. And I said, like, I love this kid. He can run, Toledo's good, but this will be fun. And they cruised through the tournament. He looked great. And I said that, like, I missed the boat on that early line. I was pretty pissed. And then I ended up not betting it because I missed the early number. But even like an 8.5, I would have loved to have, I guess, because I do think they cover that game, especially on the early lines. I wrote that. I'm like, even if they don't advance, he's probably going to be the highest scoring player on the field, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So there's a ton of these small conferences.
Right, it's probably worth it to take their money line. I haven't seen what it is. I think is it like plus 250 or something like that. I haven't seen it today. But I think that they're going to win. I think that they beat Virginia. We've seen Virginia struggle with the team. So San Francisco kind of plays like a little bit of a similar style where they want to space the floor. They want to shoot a lot of threes. They want to play some of this like kind of positionless, like new modern era basketball style of play. Now, the thing about the San Francisco game was Tony Bennett was trying to implement a new offense and it went disastrously. Like normally he runs something called ball screen continuity or the block remover, which is what his dad kind of created. And he tried to put in like this 5-out kind of isolation system, and it just did not work because he does not have the dudes to do it. So that's part of the reason why they lost to San Francisco. But they also they couldn't get stops on the stretch, and all San Francisco did was just space the floor, shoot a bunch of threes, and put guys in ball screens. And they were able to win that game, and they were able to beat that pack line defense. So I that's a long way of saying I really, really like Ohio in this spot.
Ohio, yeah. The Bobcats from the MAC, MAC champions. That was I was pleasantly surprised at how well they played, and I think maybe I spend, and obviously you do this, you pay even more attention than I do, but I start falling in love with kids like him or the kid from UC Santa Barbara. Like I bet even as chalk, I'm like, they're the best team. They're going to win this. I don't care if it's even money. They're going to win this tournament. They're going to win it convincingly. I fall in love with it. And it sucks for them. They did have an injury. Actually, I'm just going to add, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think he plays? What's the other kid's names? I'm trying to think of the kid that was injured. Somebody was injured versus the final was Irvine, I believe. And there was a decent ankle injury. And then you see like he's doubtful. And then somebody else retweet something where he's day to day. So I think there is quite a bit of paying attention. You still need to do quite a bit of paying attention this time of year for some of these injuries that occurred in conference tournaments. Obviously, we're having a lot of weirdness with COVID, people missing for Oklahoma, Kansas, obviously Virginia situation. There's a fourth one. Oh, Georgia Tech has been they paid like it was like the Thanos thing where he got the one stone and he had to pay, what'd you pay everything? It's like they win their tournament, but they have had nothing but bad luck since. So.
I still like Georgia Tech there, though. I don't know about you guys. I still like Georgia Tech.
it's going to get out to like 6. Like once it gets out to like 6, it's probably bettable the other way. Like the people that got 1.5, 2 on on the other side, they probably feel pretty good about that. Yeah, but if this gets out to 6, 6.5, you could probably bet Georgia Tech. They're still a very good team.
Yeah, I mean Jose Alvarado is like so competitive, and they have 3 really really good perimeter players. And the thing about Loyola is like what they're going to try to do is force you to play in isolation defensively. Like they're one of these teams that like they'll overplay passing lanes, and they won't let you run your offense. And when you have 3 guards that can kind of create for themselves, that's what you need to be able to beat Loyola. And I also think that Loyola is another one of these teams that is a little bit overvalued because of the way that the metrics ended up working out this season. Like I know that they're top 10 in KenPom, and I love KenPom, and I look at that more than anything else. But like they're not a top 10 team in college basketball. Like they're just not. So I really like Georgia Tech there. You mentioned UC Santa Barbara earlier. I really really like them too against Creighton. I got 2 little nuggets for you. Tell me what you think about this. So they're top 100 in KenPom. I think they're 70th right now. And the last 3 times that a Big West team has entered the NCAA tournament as a top 100 team on KenPom, they've won as 12 or 13 seeds in their first round game. The other part of it is that they're going to be playing this game at Lucas Oil Stadium in the Dome. And Creighton is a team that is built entirely on like 3-point shooting and jump shooting. Sorry, my daughter just busted into the room. So they're built entirely on 3-point shooting and jump shooting. And now you're telling me that they have to go into the Dome and try to play their first NCAA tournament game in the Dome? Like that, it's going to be empty. Like I don't know how many people are going to be in there. And I don't know if this stat is true. It was sent to me yesterday, and I'm just going to say it and pretend that it is true, and we're just going to go from there. But Big Ten teams shot 23% from 3 in the Big Ten tournament. Does that sound right?
Yeah, no, I mean, they struggled in that Dome, and people do struggle in some of these big arenas when they start doing this. And that's something we did a podcast last night, and I realized like I hadn't done nearly enough research on which games are where, because they're all over. Like they're all over Indianapolis, and some of these arenas, like the IUPUI one, I think is one. It's not nearly as big. They're playing at the Fieldhouse, they're playing Hinkle, like they're all over the place. So I'm going to dig into that today, because I think like what Rob just hit on, there probably are some angles. There's certain teams that just they're not going to play as well in playing in a goddamn football place.
Yeah. I mean, it's been written about plenty of times that it's very difficult to shoot in domes with the sight lines and the backdrops and everything. So it's my daughter's heavy on Creighton, by the way, so that's why she's yelling at me right now.
she likes the Blue Jays. No, I agree. I wrote up the West region yesterday. I'd still love Santa Barbara, especially if they're fully healthy. I think they get the upset there. So, all right. Well, Rob, we appreciate the time. We'll let you get back at it, and good luck this weekend with all your bets.
I need one money line underdog that you guys are on. I need one. Give me one pick, money line underdog.
So I place moneyline bets on all the 12 through 15 seeds every year, no matter what. So I'll be on all of them. But honestly, like UC Santa Barbara is probably my favorite at this point. And honestly, as much as I like Purdue, I can fade a post team. Like if that's what you want to build your team around, I'll take some North Texas. Like I kind of like that one too. I was surprised at how well I thought Western Kentucky was going to just take them to the woodshed. Honestly, I had them there. I had them to win the tournament. So I like North Texas.
Yeah, I was
Syracuse was my favorite.
Syracuse, I like Syracuse too. The zone, man, the zone just messes people up when you get into the tournament.
They're ready. That team's going to be ready every year. They're ready for March. Like he knows what to do.
That's all they do.
That's the deal.
That's all they do. What they do is they kind of mess around for the whole regular season, then they happen to win like a game in February, and everyone's like, you know what, Syracuse, they could be on the bubble, and they sneak into the tournament somehow, and then Jim Boeheim just turns on the magic, and all of a sudden their zone becomes impenetrable, and they make a run. They're going to be in the Elite Eight. Like you just know that they are. That's what they do.
Frustrates the hell out of me. I don't know how kids playing college level basketball can't score on this freaking zone defense. But that's for another day.
It does become comical.
But take advantage of it.
Yeah, once you realize, like when you get to watch one of those games, you'll be like, oh, they can't figure this out. Like this is bad. Like this is gonna be one-way traffic. They can't figure this out at all. So
yeah. You mentioned North Texas though, real quick. I really like them. I don't have them on the money line, but I'm gonna be backing them. And the thing that there's 2 numbers that I dug up that I really like. One is that this game is going to be very low possessions. Like both North Texas and Purdue, they want to walk the ball up, they want to grind it out, they want to play slow. Two, Purdue is everything that they're going to do is going to run through the post, so it's all going to be like twos. You're not going to have a situation where they'll have like 4 straight threes in the first half, and all of a sudden you're down by 12 and you can't dig out of that hole. And three, the way that Purdue's defense is set up is they pack everything in. They don't let you get paint touches. They want you to shoot threes over the top, and they don't gamble. Where North Texas really struggles is turning the ball over. They turn the ball over as much as just about anybody in the NCAA tournament field. And so that's not going to be a concern against Purdue. And the other thing is they shoot 37% from three. That's top 30 in America. And they're going up against a team where I looked at it the other day. Purdue allows or forces teams to shoot 46% of their field goal attempts from beyond the arc. That's 338th nationally. So you got a team that can get hot, make a couple threes. It's going to be low possessions. It's going to be higher variance. And to me, that's what you look for right there. That's the perfect makings of a potential upset. So I also like Liberty for the exact same reasons.
No, I that's another one too. That's a team I've bet year in and year out. I love that team. And they'll be, like I said, I bet all those money line underdogs every year. I have a system. There's a system to it. There's some rhyme and reason. It almost works out every year. You almost break even every year. So once in a while you get rich. You just need a 15 to come through.
The truth is you bet everyone. You don't win everyone, but you bet everyone, and that's all that matters is you're dedicated.
Yep,
I always have a winner if you bet all the horses.
I'm very consistent, and I joked around with somebody too. Like when I was out in Vegas, you bet every 12 through 15 seed, and there's some random sitting next to you out at the bar at the pool. He doesn't have to know you did that. You just show him. Oh, look! Stephen F. Austin just won. I had them like 18-1 money line. I just figured they'd win. Go Lumberjacks!
Well, go lucky.
Yeah, I got lucky. So
hanging around
all
your
right.
neck.
So, well, Rob, we thanks for your time. And if anybody's looking for you it's easy, just a nice, easy one at Rob Dauster on Twitter, doing the Field of 68, tons of podcasts coming out of that. And of course, your stuff. I mean, it's been nice every morning watching you and Jeff go over some of the games. So I can figure out, it's usually stuff I miss because you guys are deeper into like the actual basketball side where I'm just running numbers. So it's kept me off a few bad bets this year. So I thank you for that. And, like I said, good luck this weekend and into next.
Let's get some winners, guys.
Thanks, Robbie.
Here.
All right, Rob, that was some great stuff. And I'm excited. I was already jacked, but he got me more jacked. Even though just 6 games tonight, so I'm pretty pumped.
That's part of the reason I'm annoyed. Like I'm actually going to watch play-in basketball. I didn't say this while he was on. I hate the extra 4 teams. It drives me nuts. It's the silliest damn thing in the whole world. So I pretend it doesn't exist. Tonight might be the first time I break down and pretend that these exist, and maybe even watch them.
I'm betting one. So, all right. Before we cut loose, we did have some plays today. We usually lead with NBA, but I wanted to talk with Rob for a while there. So. Overs. I was a little surprised by these in the sheet today. What do you some high overs too? You ain't scared? What do you got?
I know. It's one of the things that we've been looking at, and shout out to our buddy from the NBA chat, Big 3 for 3. He kind of turned me on to this. High totals have done very well this year, going over a big number. And there is a bias to that. When people see a big number, they almost always want to go under. Spend a lot of time looking into those and going through some of my numbers, but my projections like the over in both of these spots. Minnesota, Phoenix, I was able to play over 230 there. I have that total closer to 234, almost 235. Minnesota doesn't stop anybody from doing anything. Phoenix's offense just continues to get better and better. Minnesota, again, starting to find some kind of rhythm now that they've been without D'Angelo Russell long enough to have everyone kind of settled in. I think we'll see a bunch of points there. Portland, New Orleans, similar story, played over 241 there. As I look, I have this total at 246, almost 247 myself. New Orleans has been an unbelievable over team this year. Portland as well. They have McCollum back, just everything driving towards that with both of these games. And there'll also be a couple extra people on the floor who might help us out with some of these numbers. So 2 overs for us tonight. Minnesota, Phoenix over 230 would play that up to 231. Portland, New Orleans over 241 would play that up to 242.
I'm back. I have a bet. I haven't made a lot of these. I said I made some
No
early ones,
way.
but I felt bad releasing some of those because I didn't think a lot of people could get some of those early numbers, and I didn't bet big on any of those. Just took some ticklers on some lines I thought was off. But I wrote a blog the other day about this Western region, and I talked about this one right off the bat, and then I ran the numbers this morning, and it was even more convincing. I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to bet on App State here. I mean, just it's like when we compared some of those mid majors with Rob to like major conference teams. And when you have all the teams below the top 6 conferences, there's still tiers to that as well. Like not all these mid majors are built the same. And the Sun Belt's not a great conference, but the Sun Belt is surely a few steps above the MEAC. So I am going to have to just fade Norfolk State pretty much on that. And my numbers do make it that way at the same. So it was, I think I ran a query on this as well. The Sun Belt is 40-9 versus the MEAC over the last, however long it would let me go back. Their last loss was after they'd won 12 straight. The last loss before that was against Hampton, who was a team that's not even in this conference anymore. They were so good, they weaseled their way out of the MEAC. They're in the Big South, I believe now. So Appalachian State, it's a better team and from a better conference. I make them at least 4 points better. This is in Assembly Hall. This is Indiana's floor. So a neutral site here, no advantage for Norfolk. And, they're both traveling from probably about the same distance. I don't think there's some travel thing. I haven't found anything COVID or injuries for either. So App State in the 3, and that's it for me tonight. Like I said, I kind of lean Michigan State. I'll probably have a tickler on that later, especially if App wins.
Yeah. Rob talked me into it. I'm in on Michigan State. But we have something to tide us over for the afternoon here, Andy. Let me double check the timing on this one.
I like the tennis on the basketball background. That's correct.
I know, right? St. Petersburg, we won't have any picks there. Those matches are happening right now, and there won't be lines up for anything really in a couple hours. The 2 lines we do have open, Alexandrov is a huge favorite. Kuznetsov is a huge favorite. There's probably a little value in the underdogs, but I don't like either. But at 3 p.m. this afternoon, a little matinee, if you will, Lin Zhu is playing Sai Zhang. I like the over 21 and the over 2.5 sets here. I have this at 21.5 myself. The over 2.5 sets line closer to like plus 135, plus 140. A very highly contested match. Zhu has a solid serve. Zhang is a great returner. I think you're going to see a lot of back and forth here. And this was one of those matches actually where I considered just playing the over 2.5 sets, but was able to find a cheap over 21. So played that as well. Again, just kind of stacking up our overs here, Andy.
I enjoy a good stack as much as an next guy. So, all right. Ooh, a long episode today. We kind of went. Rob was excited. Rob had a lot of bets. Just like us, you can follow me and Alex over on the BetSperts app. Rob as well. Just like his Twitter at Rob Dauster on BetSperts. He puts all his bets in over there if you want to follow his action throughout the tournament. And of course, if you do want to get some action down on the win bet with the free offer, I wrote a blog that's up on the BetSperts content site, the content section of the site and the app. I wrote a little article about how I would approach using the free bet. And until then, indeed, #Bitcoin. We'll see you guys tomorrow.